Don't you think stencils are one of the coolest craft supplies? And it's even better when you can use multiple stencils on one card, which is a great way to use your stash. Do you remember Ardit and me doing a collab? I'm going to show you my take on her technique, and I have a really cool way to use some trash. I have a stencil with some nice openings. You don't want this first one to be too small, and I'm using a wet wipe that's not too wet from the top of the pack or the middle. I picked up some paint and then I just start rubbing it on the card over the stencil. And then I'm going to take the second color and I go a little bit over the previous one to blend. Now my wipe was a bit too wet and that will let some paint go on under the stencil, but it's no biggie because that can be fixed when we turn it into a card. If you haven't seen the wet wipe paint video, make sure to watch that. You will find the link in the description box. And here's the first layer. I love this look. It's so easy and so pretty. Now next is the second stencil, and I add that on the card and then add the first stencil on top so it fits the pattern. And then I take a sponge and an ink blending tool. You can use a regular sponge too, and this works better than with the wet wipes for this technique. And I go over it with a darker blue, and then you get this really super cool effect with the second pattern on top of the first. And now you get why you need some bigger space for the first pattern, so the second pattern fits on top of it. And this was such a great find from Ardit. And in case you missed the collab video, you can find the link also in the description box. I keep filling the background like I would with ink blending, and look at the finished result and how great these colors and layers work together. It's really cool. I'm going to do another one slightly different, and now I color the background with one color and then I come in with the next color and go over the stencil, not pushing the wipe but more swiping over the stencil, and this will give you a grungy effect with more or less of the second color. This is the first layer with two oranges, which already looks fun. I cleaned the stencil in the meantime. Then I check the first stencil how it was on the card. And I'm going to take the first stencil off and add the second stencil. And now it's super easy to put the first stencil back in place. I'm going to add the magnets and then it's ready to apply the second color. I'm adding a blue color on top, and the blue and the orange give a bit of a darker greenish brown color, which fits the leafy pattern quite well. I fill the complete pattern again using a sponge applicator. You can use a regular sponge or another tool that you like. So there I have another background done, and I'm going to turn it into a card. I have cut a sentiment and I'm going to save the tiny pieces that come out of the letters because they are cute. And actually I'm going to make some more and make the most of my trash. And to make it even more cute, I use the tiny sidekick, which is also very cute and great to use with tiny shapes or smaller dies, and it will save you some time running the bigger plates through the machine. So first I'm going to add the sentiment in place on the card. And then I'm going to start adding the tiny pieces around the sentiment. I move them around a bit to see where they go best. Once you have them in place, you can start gluing them down. I added some glue on a piece of paper and I used the embellishment wand to pick up the bits and a cocktail stick to add the glue. You can use any other pointy tool or non-tool for this. So I glue all the pieces in place and there you go, a pretty card with trash turned into trinkets, less waste and more fun. And it's glitter, come on! Who throws away glitter? I know I can't. I will let you in on a little secret. Ardit and me are working on another project together for you, so make sure to come back because you are going to love this one. And in the meantime, make sure to keep on crafting!